All right, what we're gonna do is I have a DVD that has subtitles, and I will use the machine to copy this final scene again and upload it with the subtitles so that, so in other words, I'm gonna switch this one out probably tomorrow so that you can see this final scene and actually know what's going on. I'll try to explain a little bit as we go along now, but it would be nice for you to be able to see what's going on. The final, we're going to start with the trio. The trio starts where the Marschallin, the older woman, says, I flattered myself to think that I would be able to do this easily, to let him go when the time comes. I knew that he eventually would meet somebody his own age. This leads to a trio. The second voice to come in is Sophie's, the young woman, who says, I feel at once the holiest thoughts. She grew up in a convent, by the way. And fill my soul, and yet most unholy thoughts and sinful as well. Right? So she's a little new to this, and is not sure what to say. She's very young, let's say, as is Octavian, as we find out. So this trio that you're going to hear as these three voices come together is one of the most spectacular trios in opera literature. And what's interesting about it is that the depth of this music, which really is romantic and in the style of Wagner, falls away and becomes classical, which is not a bad thing, but it's a simpler, a more shallow sound. As soon as the Marschallin leaves the room, she leaves the room, it sort of simplifies down, and then the two of them sing, Sophie and Octavian sing a little melody, which is both, in terms of its text, naive, charming and naive, and musically charming and naive. It has its charm, but it also feels simple and even perhaps just a touch simplistic. Right? And that's the sadness of this throwback to an earlier style that I mentioned before. So let's start with that now, and I'm going to play a couple parts for you when we get to that melody to show you exactly how it's changed. Here goes. This is now the... This is now Octavian. I'm going to find a spot here. Now Sophie starts singing. And now Octavian joins in. We've just moved from the romantic style to the classical style, and you're going to hear this little duet in a moment. What they're singing is, it's a dream, it can't really be true that the two of us are together. Together, next to each other for all of time and for all eternity. Very nice, but totally naive, right? And it's a pretty little melody, again, but it also feels naive. Basically, a melody you might have heard 1,000 times before, so to speak, right? Very simple, it's pretty, it's cute, it's lovely. It's just like their love for each other is lovely. But again, it just feels like it's a throwback after these wonderful chords that you heard a moment ago. This is very simple. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, right? And that shift of style is very intentional on Richard Strauss's part. It's very much saying these are the styles that these are the kinds of ways we've been thinking about ourselves for the last 100 years, and it feels like it's run its course. So what's going to happen in the 20th century is actually quite remarkable, starting with new understandings of psychology, of physics, of abstraction, of time and space. You know, now you can't go to a science fiction movie without talking about wormholes anymore, right? You know, and or time shifts or ripples. What do they call them? Ripples in time-space fabric, something like that, right? Something like that. Anyway, that sort of thing is a new way of looking at reality, and you're going to see it in art, you're going to feel it in literature, and you're going to definitely hear it in music. That abstraction is now pretty much part of the way we think about, certainly in popular literature and popular movies, it's the way we think about the world around us. Even if we don't always take it seriously when we go to Walmart, or when we measure our mileage with our cars, we still do, it's still become kind of not that strange anymore to think about. And this is the beginning of that time. So as we move now from Strauss to Igor Stravinsky, we're going to see one first attempt to look at reality a little bit differently in terms of music for a moment. Unfortunately, the beginning of this was a traumatic experience for the world, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Let's take a break now, and we'll come back to it in just a second.